Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Ohioan podcast. Craig Shoup here with Bob Garver, our New York City film critic. And if Bob is here, that means we are talking movies. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy Monday. Happy
All
Columbus
right.
Day
Well,
or
yeah,
Indigenous Peoples Day.
absolutely. Well, we've got a full slate this week, very varying degrees of film. This week, we're going to start with a little bit of a horror movie. It's October. Why not? We have Smile. Tell us about Smile, Bob.
Okay, Smile tells the story of a psychologist who finds herself cursed. A patient comes to see her, complaining that she sees people smiling creepily everywhere. Um, and it's clear that the woman is cursed, and the curse gets passed on to the psychologist. And now she's seeing people smile everywhere, and uh, she needs to try to avoid the same fate that befell the patient. And in the process, she's going to have to confront some things in her own past.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be October if you didn't have a horror movie or two released. Obviously, horror movies are about the scares. Are we scared, Bob? Is this does this bring the scares to the screen?
No, this is one of the least scary horror movies I've seen in a long time.
Okay.
It's a knockoff of The Ring. It's a knockoff of It Follows. There's some Fatal Attraction in there.
Oh, okay.
Um, and of course, the smiles kind of themselves kind of knocked off from Truth or Dare from a few years ago.
Okay. Well, it,
Uh,
it did have a couple of successful box office weekends. Obviously, the box office not dominated right now by great releases. I know Black Adam is coming out here in a few weeks, so that will probably win the day in the box office with an action movie. But um, what do you think failed? Is it too derivative of those movies, as you said, or is it just not flat out scary enough?
both, both derivative and it can't achieve the effectiveness of its commercials. The commercials and trailers and even print advertising for this movie are way scarier than anything the movie itself can muster.
Okay. Well, what's your final grade there
D.
on
D. I
Smile?
give this
Ooh,
movie a D, and it's lucky to get that D.
okay. All right, so not a fan. All right, we're going to shift gears here. So we're going to go from horror movies to a rom com, but a sort of a unique rom com. Tell us about our next film.
Bros is a movie written by Billy Eichner, um, and I'm sure that it's one of those screenplays written by a comedian that's clearly cobbled together from a lot of their stand-up bits. We've seen those, in recent years. Probably Easter Sunday from Joe Coy
Mm.
was like that. Of course, Trainwreck from Amy Schumer and The King of Staten Island from Pete Davidson. There's a lot of kind of this sort of autobiographical stuff in here from Billy Eichner. This is the first mainstream LGBTQ romance movie, um, or at least romantic comedy that I can think of, and it's pretty funny in places. Eichner's character, he falls in love with a guy, and the relationship is too perfect, and he kind of has to sabotage it himself, just because he can't stand it being too easy. Um, it doesn't have great pacing, I have to say, um, and a lot of the jokes fall flat. So I have to give this one a C. But it's probably the best one of this group. I definitely see why it's getting good reviews.
Mhm.
It's just his style of humor just isn't really for me.
Yeah, I think Billy Eichner is one of those. I enjoy his Billy on the Street stuff. He's very in your face and very loud. I don't know. Does his in your face loud style from his TV show? I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he basically takes celebrities around New York and interviews them and yells at people and does games on the street. Does that kind of translate the same way, or is he a little bit more calm and reserved here?
Not. I mean, Yeah, he's more reserved in this one. There's only one or two scenes where he's really loud like that. But yeah, I never really watched Billy on the Street. I've seen a few clips of it, but he's not really like that in this movie.
Okay. All right. Well, and we'll shift gears even more to a family comedy, I guess you would call it. Lyle Crocodile.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about Lyle Crocodile.
Lyle Crocodile is a movie about a singing crocodile played by Shawn Mendes, who first lives with a magician played by uh, Javier Bardem. I know you like him as the villain in No Country
Oh,
for Old Men,
love
and
Harvey
he's
Javier Bardem. Yeah.
Javier Bardem, and he's really good here as this magician. Uh, Raises him to, I guess, physical maturity, um, and then but Lyle can't perform in front of a crowd.
Mm.
Um, if you've ever seen the cartoon, I think it's called One Froggy Evening with Michigan J. Frog. It's a lot like that,
Okay.
where he sings for Bardem, but nobody else. And then Bardem has to leave has to leave him at his brownstone, and a new family moves in, and the kid doesn't fit in at school, doesn't fit in New York City, but he makes quick friends with Lyle, and they go on some adventures together, and eventually the magician comes back, and Lyle has to choose between the guy who raised him and his new family,
Okay.
who isn't going to pressure him to do any performing.
Right. I don't know if this, we haven't really revealed the grade yet here, but this kind of strikes me as similar to the Clifford the Big Red Dog movie
Yeah,
that came out,
yeah, it's
where it was probably totally unnecessary. I'm sure a lot of kids and families had a somewhat enjoyable time. Is that kind of what we're at here in this atmosphere of beloved kids book slash children's property that's kind of thrown into a movie?
yeah, it's pretty much that. But at the very least, it's a breath of fresh air after weeks of increasingly disappointing horror movies. And I don't think kids have had a movie since the DC League of Super Pets back in July. So it's coming out at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't bring a lot to the table.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I mean,
it's
I love Javier Bardem. Constance Wu has been a big name here the last couple of years, kind of breaking out. What's your final grade for this?
C. If it was up against better competition, I would probably lower that grade, but
Hmm.
I think the movie landscape needs Lyle Crocodile right now, so I gave it a C.
Okay. Well, and obviously our next movie was sort of put in that prime area of Oscar contending season. We're in the Oscar season now, and it's from a well-known director, a great cast. Amsterdam is from David O. Russell, sort of a hit and miss director. I'm a huge fan of Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, but he's also made some things that I just don't quite like. Like I Heart Huckabees as well, is one movie that I can think of. I know his last movie, Joy, was 2015, not really well received. So are we getting good David O. Russell or just kind of meh David O. Russell here with Amsterdam?
Man, David O. Russell. Probably closer to I Heart Huckabees than anything
Hmm.
else.
Okay.
Any of the movies you like. Basically, Christian Bale and Margot Robbie and John David Washington meet on the battlefield and then later in a hospital during World War One, and they form a pact to always protect each other, um, and always protect war veterans. And they get mixed up in a murder plot, which sounds like a lot of fun,
Yeah.
but the movie is just so overstuffed with characters and overstuffed on plot that it's just a mess. There are some dry, humorous scenes that work in a vacuum, but
Yeah.
but as a whole, the whole thing's just a mess.
Yeah. Well, it's disappointing to hear. Obviously, I'm not like this Tarantino level fan of David O. Russell's work, although I did enjoy thoroughly, Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, Three Kings. And this is a great cast, and it seems like it's a waste with Bale and Robbie and John David Washington. You also have Robert De Niro, Chris Rock, Michael Shannon, Mike Myers, Timothy Oliphant. Taylor Swift is in this. I mean, it seems like it's stuffed with a lot of characters and a lot of well-known actors and actresses. Was it just a little too overstuffed for its own good? Maybe is this kind of one of those?
Too overstuffed for its own good. Yeah.
Okay, well, unfortunate to hear. Obviously, David O. Russell, hasn't made a movie since 2015, so you're hoping the time off would back a nice comeback. What's your final grade for Amsterdam?
See, I mean, I liked some of the scenes. I liked some of the jokes, and Christian Bale and John David Washington are really putting their backs into it. But overall, this thing just couldn't get its act together.
Okay,
especially when it comes to the motivations of
right.
what's really going on.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a tough week at the movies for Bob. I know you're going to be going on vacation soon, but what will we be talking about when you come back?
Black Adam for sure. Halloween Ends for sure.
Okay.
I don't know how many movies I'm going to get to see between now and our next show, but those two definitely.
All right. Well, we'll take a little bit of time off as Bob goes on vacation. As always, Bob, though, we appreciate you stopping by and talking movies. Hopefully, you'll have a little bit better movie-going experience before your vacation, or at least after your vacation, because it didn't sound like a very good week for you this week.
Yeah, nothing really flipped my trigger this week, but thank you. And this is the highlight of my week.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mooney. Welcome to what is our new Hope Interrupted podcast based on the work from our book, Hope Interrupted, that I co-authored with my good friend Byron McCauley.
Hey, Jennifer, I'm looking forward to this podcast as much as I was looking forward to writing this book with you. We hope to interview some high-impact folks as well as have a little fun.
We're going to cover stories of hope. To learn more about our podcast and our book, please visit www.hopeinterrupted.com.